on the total levy at this point. Actually, you'll see the breakouts for the individual levies. Those still to be determined based on how we finalize the budget. You'll notice a couple of things, one being the health department, which I know everyone was concerned about. In this levy, we would be increasing the health department levy by about 3.7% to $10 million. The final levy, which would be 1 million estimated levy, $121,455,000, $455,016, which winds up being a rate of 0.5941, does include new construction and only new construction. So I will be making the motion to move this forward. Obviously, after a motion and second, anyone that is feels the need to want to increase the tax levy can certainly speak to that. But on 17258, I'd like to make the motion to move this forward.
Moved by Mr. Frizzlone, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Any questions? Ms. Trainier.
I am very concerned about the fact that we are not taking in the consumer price index levy money that we had discussed in your proposed budget, Mr. Executive. We have a lot of things going on in Will County right now, as we heard even this morning from the folks from Metra and Pace. Every single year we see a lower number in terms of people shopping at a brick and mortar store, and it is going to eventually catch up to Will County in a big way. And I think that it is very short-sighted for us to discount taking in this $1 million potentially in the cost, the CPI, when we are at a time where we're investing a lot into our county that is eventually going to need to be paid back in part through those RTA sales taxes. I would rather take the $1 million today and pay cash for it, make an extra payment, get ahead of the game, not pay interest on some portion of some of the projects that we're working on, and still lower our tax rate, than to pass this opportunity for the $1 million and later get caught short, really short, which could very likely happen in a few years if we don't if the country doesn't change how it does taxation, and as consumers begin to change more and more towards shopping in places that are not collecting a county sales tax or a state sales tax. So I think that is extremely important, and I have been on this board now for a little over 8 years, and it's become abundantly clear to me that the direction this county as a board wants to go is to lower the tax rate. And my understanding is if we collect the CPI, we are still going to lower this tax rate. So I would hope that my colleagues will consider strongly supporting a motion to include the CPI in this aggregate levy for this next budget year.
Thank you. Mr. Tyler Markham. No, you just leave don't put.
There we go. So I still have a couple of concerns that I brought up in the special meeting the other day for Finance Committee. After the county executive presented his budget, there's a lot of criticism that we didn't include any money for the union contract, and it's my understanding that the county board budget will not reflect that, which means that we're going to have to cut things out of the budget. And I don't know how we can vote on this if we don't have a plan going forward to cut $1 million out of the budget. There's also a lot made about the overtime, that we didn't budget enough for the overtime, which is more money that we're going to have to make up for. And if we do have to make cuts, it is my hope that the county board starts cutting our own budget rather than cutting things that will hurt services that the county provides.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Hey, my comments is also along the same. This levy does not accurately reflect the needs of the county. I think we're faced with some times where the state is cutting funding to us with almost $2.4 million with the LDF decrease. I think we can lower the rate, which this board agrees that we must do, and also take advantage of much needed revenues we need. The EAV has been increasing year after year at almost a 5% rate, and that by itself will lower the rate. So I think we need to look at this and plan accordingly. The demand in Will County is increasing, and we need to adjust for that. And we do have an opportunity to generate revenue, which we all agree that we need. Maybe we should do more from a legislative end and put pressure on Springfield to give us what we deserve. The residents deserve that. And we, as a county board, need to make sure we're doing our part. So I think we need to step up our efforts and let them know where we're coming from, what we need, and we're not just going to sit back and take it. So unless we do that, and until we do that, I think we got an opportunity now to get what's needed for the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Ballage.
Yes, about a year ago, I did a referendum in Humber Township, and it passed by 87%. And the referendum basically said that the people wanted government to go to referendum before they raised their property taxes. And the reason for that referendum, and the reason why the overwhelming majority of the people in Homer Township, which is a big portion of my district, voted that way, is because people that aren't working in government don't get raises anymore, and all their bills keep going up, and they're all finding it real difficult to make ends meet at the end of the month. Their disposable income decreases every month. Now, we can, as government, expand the size of government, keep it the same, or contract. I'm one of those people who believes we should lessen the size of government. But, you know, the majority of the board probably doesn't agree, so we should at least keep it the same. We don't need to increase the size of government and increase the taxes on residents who voted for us to keep government smaller so they can live in a comfortable lifestyle. And when you guys talk about raising taxes, go in your district and ask your people, do you want to increase tax? And somebody, I remember a couple years ago, said it's only like a couple McDonald's hamburgers. Well, when they heard that on the video, I had people tell me, well, I'd rather have me get a couple more McDonald's hamburgers than the government get more money. So I'm just pointing this out. You know, I guess we have a philosophical difference in opinion. But I know for myself, it's a hard pill for me to swallow to just take the new construction, because I would rather take nothing and cut the taxes a whole bunch and give more money back to the people that they pay in taxes. I shouldn't say give it back, because it's their money to begin with. So, I mean, when you guys are talking about raising the taxes to the CPI, go in your district and or take an ad out in the paper and tell them why you want to raise taxes. And see if they're happy with you, how many phone calls you get.
Thank you. Ms. Summers?
Thank you. First of all, I want to make it very clear, this isn't about raising taxes, and I don't think any of my fellow colleagues are even talking about raising taxes. However, that being said, I am new to the board. Things are not very clear to me on what we are doing with this today. I feel we need to be much more transparent. I feel we as county board members need to roll our sleeves up, sit down, and talk to each other. I understand that a lot of these things do go through committees. However, in good conscience, until I have a clear picture of everything that is going to be cut, because there will have to be cuts, and if we're talking about possibly going after overtime, I know that affects our sheriff's department. For me, in one of the most rural parts of the county, that could be very detrimental. And so, that being said, I will be voting no against this.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
Mr. Executive, I try not to turn my microphone on to be repetitious of what was said, but I think a lot of things that bear repeating. And I think with 17,258 as presented, Mr. Chairman, is that setting the revenue, there's still some shortfalls, there's still some gaps. And I guess what I didn't hear was how were some of those things going to be addressed, such as have been repeated already, the sheriff's overtime, the contract that we passed on. So even though this sets the revenue, it doesn't really address the entire, and I hope we can have some further dialogue about it, how we're going to cover the other shortfalls that have been repeated already. And that's my concern about with this levy. Thank you.
You know, keeping our eye on the bureaucracy, that's the role of an elected official. Okay? And part of this is an oversight to ensure that our citizens are being addressed and their concerns are being dealt with and protected, not overregulated and not overtaxed. To come out and say that we need to raise or use the CPI because eventually something might happen is what has gotten Springfield into trouble, because when you eventually put money into an account that will eventually be used, it's already spent before the eventually takes place, because people will find a way to spend money that's available. This is not our money. This is not, it's the citizens' money, and we cannot go in and take money that we don't need. We're presenting a balanced budget from the numbers that I've been presented and from what we've taken a look at and had discussions in all our committees. You know, we're looking at a revenue stream here that is supposed to be able to address our needs. And once we've passed this, it's up to the folks that we give the money to make sure that it's addressed. They always seem to come up with more money. Love watching when spending happens at the end of a year because people still have dollars available. So I'm going to be a yes vote for this because we've always been able to find ways to take care of our expenses when they happen, including the sheriff's overtime. But I don't want to go in and assume that something's going to happen and put dollars. I'd rather find a way to make sure that we can find it. And we seem to have been able to do that over the years.
Thank you. So I'm not really like a financial wizard or anything, but consumer price index is the increase that it costs to live every day. So when we talk about taking the consumer price index, I don't know where we're taking it from. We're taking it from our residents who are paying taxes. So it's already costing them more to live. That's already increased. And we want to then it's costing them more to live, go to the store, pay the rent, whatever. Now we want to go ahead and raise, get an additional amount for the county's levy from that same group of people. I don't understand this. I don't understand the thought process on saying, well, we want to represent the little guy. Well, representing the little guy, you're taking more out of their pocket. And another thing is, the budget that was presented to us, the Sheriff's Department will always have overtime because they have no idea what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis when they have to send their guys out for something that might happen, some tragedy, some event that causes them to work more. But the budget that was presented had zero amount in the sheriff's overtime budget. So the budget that Mike's been working very hard on, and the discussions have been at Finance Committee. If not able to come to Finance Committee, we have people who record it so you could watch it. And we're putting, Mike is set to put a dollar value in there for the sheriff. So that makes it a more balanced, more transparent budget rather than where are we paying for their overtime. I'm just going to have to tell those guys there's no overtime, so when you call, there's nobody available because they can't pay overtime. It doesn't make sense to me. So I think that I'm like Steve. I don't even want to take a new construction because it continues to grow government. We need to really tighten our budget as much as we possibly can. It will be a yes vote for this, and I'm glad that we're not taking the consumer price index.
Yes. I've been on this board for 25 years now. You know, some people may think that's too long. Some people think I bring a certain history to this board. When I came on this board, the levy was approximately $50 million. Actually, I think it was a tad less. Which means, in my tenure here, the levy is going up about 270%. I can tell you for most of our residents, their salaries haven't gone up 270%, nor is their property values going up 270%. You know, I sometimes reflect on my work as a supervisor of Frankfort Township, and I work a lot with seniors in my township, some outside my township. I work with those seniors who still try to stay in their home, but have to come to a food pantry to supplement their food budget. Now, you may not think it's a big deal. Is this a little money? Tell that to the senior who's being taxed out of his house. I have to think every dollar counts. Yes, do we keep it tight here? Will this keep our budget tight? Does it make us make decisions on where money should be spent? Absolutely. Is it easy? Absolutely not. But it's easy is this to say, we'll take more money from our residents. Yeah. If there's one tax I think that is universally disliked, or people are concerned about, I shouldn't say disliked, that they're concerned about, it's their property tax. People literally get taxed out of their homes, especially our senior community. So we should not take it lightly when we raise taxes to say, because you think the government has a bigger need than the senior community here, or whatever community you want to use here, or just a resident. I happen to think there's not a bigger need for government. I've said on a number of occasions, I wasn't elected to represent the government. I wasn't elected to represent bureaucracy. And I certainly wasn't elected to see how much expansion of government we could provide. I was elected to represent the people and their needs. And I'll represent my district and maybe some other districts who are recipients of government services. I understand you're going to represent your constituency because that may be what's best for them. But for my district and my constituency, and I think for the county as a whole, we should always try to hold the line on property taxes best we can. And that doesn't mean we haven't raised them over the years, because we certainly have. But let's try to hold on and not expand government or that tax base burden any more than we need to. On overtime, let's be clear, in the sheriff's department, the majority overtime is not for patrol. The majority overtime is created by the jail, the correction officers in the jail. And we try to address that in part by putting some additional correction officers into the system, and that should help cut overtime. I know we're not discussing the budget here today, this is about the levy, but I think as we go forward, you will see that the folks who are working on the budget, and I'm not, that's basically Mike and Melissa and some others, I let them do their work, or we let them do their work, and then they kind of come back to us. But if you have somebody really, if you want to participate in the budget process, and you want to talk about where you think the resources should go, I know Mike was probably going to say this anyway, so I hope I'm not grabbing some of your... You are. Yeah, I know I am. Speak up. Get involved. Come to the committee. Come to the workshops. Let us know where you think the resources should be placed. You can say it again. So, I'm just saying that we should all be sensitive to property taxes, because it is the one area that I think is pretty sensitive, and it can really impact people, especially our senior communities. So I get off my high horse now. Thank you.
Count. First, Mr. Neer, our cash reserves are holding. They're not being depleted. So I don't believe there's time for the worry about the sky falling yet. We're solid in that respect. In the summers, I take great offense to someone saying I'm not transparent. I really do. I've had emails sent out asking for anybody's input on the budget. I've mentioned at every meeting that I have, if anybody has questions, Elizabeth and I spent a couple of hours the first year going over budgets and looking at numbers, and I did it. I have no problem talking to anybody about budgets. I'm going to tell you something. My budget that I bring forward is not going to be perfect. But I can't say anybody's would, and I can't say the executives would be either, but apparently no one has said anything about the current budget. If you have questions, if you have concerns, obviously you don't think one single item should change because no one has sent me anything. There's got to be something in there. Somebody might have made a typo even. So, and no one commented on the overtime. Not a single person after looking year after year how the overtime, which is in the $2.8 million, and we budget $1 million for it. Now, granted, it's taken me a couple of years to figure that system out too, but I figured it out now. And Herb, to your comment, I think we've got 2 weeks yet until the finance meeting. At that time, all the things that Melissa and I and Sean have worked on, we'll be able to present that then. That'll be a finance meeting. That'll give everybody time before we vote on the budget in November to make comment, to make suggestions, where movement should be. I'm not just saying cuts. Maybe someone thinks one department gets too much and another doesn't get enough. That's a valid point. Maybe it should change. But if you take a look, and I've said this many, many times, I look at every single line item. If I see $10,000 of bottled water in a line item, I ask the question, why are we paying $10,000 for bottled water? That's gone now. It's not in there. But I look at those items. I'm really sincere about this. I look at every single item. So I am opening up to everybody that wants to talk, sit down, go over items, but at the finance meeting on November 7th, we'll bring all of those changes that we see fit to make. As I said, we're moving some additional monies into the healthcare department. When we're finished, there may be more in there. I don't think we won't go less, but there may be more available to them based on the rearrangement. So in closing, I'd like to ask you to call the question.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mayor? Brooks?
No.
O'Gala? Summers? Singer? Rice? Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Gould? Militello? Balich? Griswold?
Yes.
Winfrey? Parker? Staley Ferry? Ballinger? Markham? Hart? Tumanello? Weigel?
Yes.
Barry? And Eustace?
Yes. Fifteen, did you say? 15 affirmative, return.
14.
14 affirmative, resolution 17-258 is passed.